several 100 feet, kind of towards the middle of the opening really, but we were in the wide open area now, and while it was dark, night, but snow on the ground, so you still could see the outlines of, dark outlines of the people moving. And as we reached about the center of the clearing, suddenly we saw a couple of silhouettes of men on the other side of the woods, coming out from the woods and began to approach us. We stopped immediately and we kind of put ourselves in a huddle and tried to pretend. We hoped that they would think that we were just a bush over there. Of course, they knew who we were, and they gradually approached us, two silhouettes. When they got to us within 100 feet or so, suddenly we heard them arming the rifles. There were two Soviet soldiers, border guards, and they ordered us to stay there, and we stayed. One of them approached us closer, the other stayed at some distance with the rifle at the ready, and the one that came closer, he ordered us sit down, and then one at a time approaching him, and he was patting us down, I guess for weapons or whatever else he was checking, and he was checking us individually. He didn't find our money, that was the only thing we had, we didn't have any arm, and he didn't seem to find anything from anybody else either. After they finished searching us, we heard one of the soldiers, and I don't remember which one of the two was, in Russian, then told to the other, let's just shoot 5 of those son of bitches right here. And all of us understood, because Poles speak good Russian. This part of Poland was under Russian rule for a long time. All of them speak Russian. So that all of them understand what was happening. And while we were sitting in the deep snow on the ground, suddenly the people who were sitting in the front of the group started to move back, trying to get into the second row and get further away from the front where they expected somebody to be selected to be shot. The soldiers noticed that the whole thing was kind of in movement, and they shouted, "Stop there, stay there." And then suddenly one of those people in the group, and I don't remember who it was, but one of the group suddenly bolted to the side, just started running. And the moment he started running, everybody else started running. We all just ran in all directions. We heard shots, cries, and the 3 of us just ran for our lives. My brother-in-law, I, and this neighbor, we happened to stay together, and I don't know how we managed to do that, but somehow we ran, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes for a long time through the woods. Then we stopped, exhausted, quiet, no soldiers, no other border crossers, no guide, deep woods, dark, cold, no stars, no moon, no nothing. And of course we lost all sense of direction. We didn't know where was north, where was south, where was east, where was west. So the question for us was, well, what do we do now? How do we know where to go in order to get back home? And we wondered. It was a really desperate situation. I volunteered to climb up a tree to see whether we could see the light of a farmhouse or something, and I did climb up a tree part way. It was not easy climb because of cold and snow and ice and so on, but I did try. I couldn't see anything, so I came down again, and we were just standing there kind of wondering now, what are we going to do now? And then suddenly we heard a pop, and then we see fireworks coming up and exploding in the air. And then another pop and another firework. And then one more, and then the fourth. Quite a display of fireworks. And we were wondering, what's happening? And then suddenly we realized that it was New Year Eve 1940. And the Germans were celebrating New Year Day and shooting those fireworks. And knowing where the fireworks were coming from, we knew our direction to go to the west, to the German side. We started in that direction. We found our way to a farmhouse. We knocked on the door, Polish farmer, let us in, gave us some vodka, and gave us some potatoes to eat, and we slept there on the floor. Next morning, when it became daylight, he showed us how to get to the railroad station, got on the train, and got back home. But I tell you, whenever I celebrate New Year, I cannot help remembering that experience.
Yeah, I guess.
To this day.
Wow.
To this day.
I'm going to interrupt you for a minute, Greg. I'm
fun?
going to interrupt you for a minute. I know now why you like to walk. Because you just told me.
I got another one for you. I'll bet you remember that New Year's Eve too, don't you?
Yeah. This guy walks a couple miles every day. And then he comes home and swims for an hour. Gee.
We were now in January 1940, and we got back home, and we got some money, not much, but some money, and we continued kind of a bare day-to-day existence. Then about maybe January 10th or 15th, we got a letter from my father. It turned out that he, having escaped from Barber, little town on the east side of Warsaw, with his horse and the cart and his wife and son, he found himself in Posen. If you look at that map 4 again, he found himself in Posen, and by that time it was part of Germany. So he found himself in Germany now, and by the time he wrote us this letter, which was several months after he left, after the hostilities ended, it was January, he left in September, he got a job in Posen at the Posen University Library as a research librarian. So he got a reasonably good job, and he wrote to us that he was safe and reasonably comfortable in Posen, and he was inquiring how we were doing, and we responded and that we had a very difficult situation. And I particularly, in my letter to him, I said that the worst part of it is that all schools are closed. I cannot go to school. I cannot continue my education. A couple of weeks later, I got another letter from my father saying that if I cannot continue going to school in Warsaw, I just should get to Posen and join him and his wife and the little son in Posen, because I could continue my education there, and that he is going to try to get from German authorities permission for me to get from the German-occupied Poland, Polish territory, into what now was part of Germany. In fact, he managed to get such permit for me, and by March of 1940, I found myself in Posen, out of Warsaw. once I arrived in Posen, it was entirely different world. Just an entirely different world. Warsaw was badly damaged by the war, was no food, no transportation, very oppressive occupation. I arrived in Posen, and it was by that time 4 or 5 months after it was incorporated to Germany. It was perfectly quiet, peaceful city. Food was plentiful. Schools were open, German schools it is. And life was perfectly normal. The only way you knew about the war would be by reading a newspaper. Absolutely peaceful. Well, at that point, I decided that I had to try to continue my education. I intended to go to Technical University in Warsaw after graduating from Polish gymnasium. I couldn't do that. And so I decided to try to get into the German gymnasium in Posen, graduate there with good enough grades to get accepted into Technical University in Berlin and study electrical engineering there. The Technical University in Berlin was very